another live Patriots Q A. It's been a while. Evan, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Sierra?
Doing well, ready to be back at work, even though it's a Friday. So I feel like I came back to work just for it to be another weekend, but not complaining. We got a couple questions over on Twitter, but as always, as your Patriots questions come to you, drop them in the live chat. We'll get to as many as possible. Starting over on Twitter, we have a question from our friend Leon. If Cam has a good year, do you see the Patriots signing him to a longer term, or do you still think that they have hope for Stidham as the future?
It's a good question. I think that they definitely still have hope internally that Stidham is going to be the guy eventually, or has the potential to be the guy eventually. I think in terms of signing Cam to a long-term extension, I don't see it. I think this is a win-win right now for both sides. Cam gets to reset his market on the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick making the best out of his abilities, and then he also gets to get paid, right? So I think that that's the biggest thing, and the Patriots get the benefit of having a very, very good quarterback on the cheap for one season. The Patriots have done this type of thing multiple times with other types of players, not normally quarterbacks, obviously, but other guys that have come here on 1 year market reset type of deals. And 9 times out of 10, they get paid elsewhere. So I'd be pretty surprised if the Patriots end up giving Cam any sort of a big contract, even if he plays well this year.
And we've seen Cam's already getting some work in with some of his new wide receivers, Mohamed Sanu last week, most recently N'Keal Harry. We've seen reports of Devin Asiasi catching throws from Cam. Which wide receiver will mesh the best with Cam, in your opinion?
Well, I think that N'Keal Harry, and I'm not just saying this just to pump his tires, he looks fantastic. He honestly looks fantastic, and he's had a great offseason. He's done everything that he could possibly do. If he doesn't break out in year 2, or if his career doesn't go the right way, it's not going to be because of a lack of effort. This guy is out there 6 days a week, twice a day, working on his craft, working on his game. And I think the one thing that you watch with Cam is that he does have a little bit more of that kind of innate ability to be on the same page as his receivers and kind of just throw the ball up to some of these guys like Kelvin Benjamin or Devin Funches or Greg Olsen in the past that have earned that trust from Cam of, it's a 50-50 ball, but with you, I'm just going to kind of put it on your back shoulder or put it at a high point and try to make a play. And I think that that's what N'Keal can really benefit from a player like Cam. I think Mohamed Sanu can really benefit from Cam as well, because Cam likes some of those quick hitting routes that Sanu likes to run. So I think that those two mesh really well in terms of what Cam's skill set is. But I think that N'Keal Harry's sky is the limit, really, not only because of his workouts this offseason and how good he looks. He lost a little bit of weight. He's trying to get a little bit more explosive, a little bit more sudden in his movements, become a little bit more kind of, urgent in his routes and be a little bit more explosive as a player. And I think it's starting to pay off. And you're seeing that in some of the social media videos that we've seen surface over the last couple of days.
Well, speaking of social media videos, the Patriots put out a couple hype videos for Cam Newton saying he will be wearing number 1 in New England. He's hungrier than ever. So this relates to Brady's question here in the live chat. It doesn't seem like they're hype videos for someone who's in a stiff quarterback competition for the starting role. It seems like he's the guy for this season.
Yeah, I think there's 2 schools of thought here. One is that the Patriots media team and the Patriots social media team truly have nothing to do with football operations. I don't think that Bill Belichick is walking down to Kraft Sports Production and saying, let's make an insane Cam Newton hype video. Let's get everybody pumped up. I don't think he had anything to do with it. But that being said, the people within the organization, they're certainly going to allow themselves to profit off Cam Newton, sell the jerseys, sell the excitement, sell the buzz. But I think that it's pretty clear at this point that Cam brings something to the table that Jarrett Stidham just can't. And that's just this confidence or this aura that when he walks into a room or when he walks onto the field, people just gravitate towards him. And he's got this leadership quality that's innate. It's a lot like Tom Brady, right? When he walks into a room, Tom Brady is there. And I think that that's important with starting quarterbacks. When a guy comes to the huddle, you need to feel confident. You need to feel like that's the guy. That's our guy. That guy is going to take us where we need to go. And I'm just not sure it's fair to think that Jarrett Stidham could ever really get to that point as quickly as he would need to for the 2020 season. So I think that's the biggest difference right now, I would say, between Cam and Jarrett Stidham is just that level of confidence that the players have in him and sort of that confidence that just oozes out of his body just by him being there.
And Brady, we hope that we're there to report this season, but
Yes.
Really, who knows? We don't know. it's the learn as you go situation. We hope there's even football this season, but we'll try not to be too pessimistic right now. We have a question here from Ashwin. Can Devin Asiasi be what Greg Olsen was to Cam here in New England, especially since they're already building chemistry?
Yeah, I think that that's a really exciting duo because Cam, if you look at his numbers historically, now granted, it helps when you're throwing to Greg Olsen for most of your career, but when you look at his numbers historically, he's been really good at throwing to tight ends. That's a big part of his game, throwing in the middle of the field, throwing up the seams and using that arm strength to push the ball down the field. And you look at Asiasi's game, and we talked about this in the draft, that his game is a very vertical, post routes, seams, things over the middle of the field, up the field, vertically. Those are all the types of things off of play action that I truly feel that Cam can thrive on as well. So I like that duo a lot. I think that Asiasi has that little initial burst and that ability to get on the second level quickly and get over those linebackers to create those passing lanes. And I think that Cam can be the one to take advantage of those. And then you put into that factor that Cam can also run. So now you have, defenses and linebackers adjusting themselves and reacting to the run, right? And then after that, you have the linebackers creeping up. Now they got to worry about setting the edge against Cam. And then the tight ends are the ones that end up sneaking behind those guys. And I think that Asiasi can be that. I thought he could be that with Stidham. I think he can be that with Cam.
Josue Pavon here with the pressing question about your beard, when you're going to shave it off or if you're going to let it grow all season long.
Well, my girlfriend Jess really likes the beard, so I keep the beard for her, looking like this for her for the most part. I think that we're going to keep it going a little bit longer. We'll see what happens.
Love it. So Ashwin also wants to know what you think is the most important for Cam Newton to fix, whether it's his mechanics or his accuracy.
Well, Ashwin, I would say that one is a product of the other, right? When accuracy issues usually stem for quarterbacks, usually stem from poor throwing mechanics in some way, shape, or form. I think the biggest thing that with Cam, with his throwing mechanics, he's got this weird kind of innate kind of sense of like he tilts his arm backwards and he kind of leans more on his back leg than I would like him to. And that whole thing kind of just turns into like a pendulum, right? Where he tilts backwards and then he kind of throws it like a javelin almost, right? And that's always been sort of his throwing motion. So at this point of his career, you're probably not going to mess too much with that throwing motion. But at the same time, you want to get his footwork down. You want to get his hip and his, sort of that kinetic energy that we've talked about from the ground up going a little bit smoother to help him out with his arm strength so that it's not all falling on his shoulder and all falling on his arm. But I think that that's really the biggest thing, is that he's going to be a little bit inconsistent. I don't think 10 years into his career, Cam Newton's going to go from being Cam to Drew Brees or Tom Brady. That's not going to happen. So Patriots fans will have to get used to having a quarterback whose accuracy can come and go a little bit.
Nathan wants to know which wide receiver will make the biggest splash for the offense, but I'm going to reform the question a little bit. Not named Julian Edelman or N'Keal Harry, because we
Somebody
know
else.
those two guys have the highest potential in that group.
Yeah, I really think Sanu is doing all the right things, and I'm excited to see what comes of this kind of new motivated Mohamed Sanu. He was really disappointed about what happened last year. It really kind of weighed on him and what he has done in the offseason, and as he has been working out like crazy. He's been working with a bunch of different trainers, guys that specialize in route running, but also in body coaches, guys that specialize in speed training and explosiveness training and all that kind of stuff. And he looks fantastic. He looks jacked out of his mind right now. And I think that he's going to have a bounce back year, because I think he's pissed off. I don't think he wants to play like that ever again. I will pump my guy Damari Bird, though. I still believe in the Bird. I still think he's going to be a good player for the Patriots, as that speed factor on the outside. And I'm really looking forward to seeing both those guys out there.
I know you love talking about this guy. We've got a couple of questions about Antonio Brown's most recent Instagram post in a Patriots jersey. Is there anything to be read into there? Would it even be in the realm of possibility for him to come back to the Patriots?
Well, yesterday, Mike Reese replied to a tweet and said 0% chance that Antonio Brown comes back to the Patriots. And I'm right there with Reese. And the biggest reason, I think, was not necessarily what went down while Antonio Brown was here. It was actually those tweets and Instagram posts about Bob Kraft after the fact. You say some stuff like that about the team owner, I don't think that you're coming back to that team. That usually burns a bridge. And I think also the Patriots felt a little bit duped by the entire situation, because Antonio Brown and his team knew that all that kind of stuff was going to come out, the SI story and all that other things that came out once he signed here in New England. They told him that he was clean, that he just kind of went through a tough time in Oakland and just needed to get out of a bad situation. And he gets here and there's a lot more baggage than just getting into arguments with Mike Mayock. And I think the Patriots weren't as prepared as they would have liked to be for that sort of shitstorm that came from that, all that information. And I think that he burned that bridge.
What's your guess on Sony Michel's status for training camp? He underwent that foot surgery. Your thoughts on his health status for the start of the season?
I think that I think it's murky right now. I think there is definitely a chance that he starts training camp on the PUP list and they ease him back into this thing. The way it sounds right now to me, it doesn't sound like he's going to be in jeopardy of missing time during the season. It's going to be really more about when he can start ramping things up in training camp. So I would say that he's probably going to miss a few days of camp. Last year Isaiah Wynn wasn't immediately right back on the field, and we wrote about it. We all talked about it. Oh, today, Wynn did a little bit more, and then today Wynn did a little bit more, and then finally he got the pads on. He started hitting people and all that kind of stuff. So I think that Sony Michel, it will be fine. I do think that there is a chance that he starts on PUP.
And we have a question here. Harold's high on Jeff Thomas. As we know, you have good things to say about him as well. He said, ideally, I love to see a receiving core of Nikhil, Edelman, Thomas, and Sanu. Your thoughts on Jeff Thomas's potential?
He's got all the potential in the world. Just keep the head screwed on straight and focus and be locked into the playbook and all that kind of stuff. And he's really going to be a good player, I think, in this league if he can keep his head on straight. I think the biggest thing with Nikhil is you watch him play last year and you watch the route releases and you see how much he struggled at the line of scrimmage to create separation against press coverage. And that's really what happens when you get sent out there to be the X receiver on the outside every single snap. You're going to face a press corner 9 times out of 10 in the NFL nowadays. That's just the way the league is working. You're going to play man. You have a guy that's across from you playing man coverage, and you're going to have to beat that man coverage corner. And I think that's a little bit difficult for Nikhil. So somebody like a Jeff Thomas, like a Damari Bird, who can maybe let Nikhil play a little bit more off the line of scrimmage, move him around the formation a little bit more. I think that would really unlock a lot more of his skill set than just, the big body 50-50 catches on the outside. So I'm excited to see how someone like Thomas or someone like Bird can allow them to move Nikhil around a little bit more and get a little bit more creative with his usage.
And Murdoch wants to know what the running back situation looks like, which running back you see having the most yards this season.
It sounds like a fantasy football question and a bet online question. We can plug our guys over there as well. But I think the biggest thing with the running back group is it's always going to be by committee. And most importantly, I would say, is that it's really about matchups. Which running back fits the style of play that they need to be that week better. Is this a Sony week? Is this a Rex Burkhead week? Is this a James White week? Which way are we going to go with it? So the Patriots love to kind of just interchange, based off of the matchup, based off of who's hot, based off of, who's gotten a lot of carries last week. Maybe you let that guy have a little bit less workload the next week and manage workloads and stuff like that. So I think the Patriots will continue to be a committee. It's going to continue to be extremely difficult to pick who's the top guy in terms of rushing yards. I will go with Sony Michel again because I think he's going to get the most opportunity as that first and second down back between the tackles.
Ashwin's asking a question we haven't really gotten to discuss too much yet. Your thoughts on Patrick Mahomes' contract and what that might mean for a quarterback like Dak?
Well, I think the Patrick Mahomes contract is really fascinating because on the one hand, you got to pay Patrick Mahomes if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. He is the entire franchise, and now he's worth literally half the franchise in terms of total value. So he's actually worth the half the franchise on and off the field right now. And I think that really does tell you what you need to know about how good he is. But at the same time, we have history, we have precedent of teams struggling to build around a very high priced quarterback, a guy that's taking up 15 to 20% of the salary cap. It's difficult to then build a team around him. So for Kansas City, the key is really going to be to draft well. That's how you can do it, is if you continue to fill in holes, right? When guys leave in free agency because you can't afford them, and there are going to be guys that they're going to lose because of that. When that happens and that comes, then can you draft guys and replace them with draft picks or sign free agents like the Patriots do who are bargains and sign them on big, low money tender deals and then turn them into stars? Can Kansas City do that? Can Patrick Mahomes do that? Maybe just having him allows them to pick a wide receiver off, the scrap heap and turn him into a good player because he's catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. So it's a team building thing, right? And at the end of the day, you had to keep Mahomes near the Chiefs. He's the entire franchise, he's the face of the franchise. It's not a big market there in Kansas City. So you really have to pump it up a little bit. But I think the question is can they continue to build through the draft, through cheap free agency, and not rely on some of the big contracts that they've handed out while Patrick Mahomes has been on his rookie deal?
And hey, it's hard to think that a $500 million deal can be team friendly, but I do think it is good for Patrick Mahomes and the
Yeah.
Chiefs. I think it was definitely a win-win.
Now pay Dak. I didn't answer that part of the question. Pay Dak. That's it.
He will. He'll get paid.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about Jacoby Myers lately?
He's kind of been a little bit of the diamond in the rough right now, right? You know, we hear so much about Sanu, so much about N'Keal Harry, and they've been very public about their workouts, and it's been splat, all over social media and all that kind of stuff. Jacoby Myers is going about it like Jacoby Myers usually does, very quietly, and he's been kind of waiting in the wings. He's been in the Boston area for the most part. I do know that he's thrown with Stidham a little bit, so I think that there is something going on there with Myers. He's just been a little bit quieter than some of the other guys.
And Rex Burkhead's contract was restructured. Ashton wants to know what that means about what the team sees in Burkhead.
This was the Danny Amendola special. That's what I tweeted out right after it happened. This is the take a pay cut or we're going to cut you, right? That's really what happened with Rex Burkhead. They really like the player. He's extremely valuable to them because of his versatility. He can run the ball. He can catch the passes. He can play on special teams. That 3 down, 4 down versatility is always key for the Patriots. And that's why they love Burkhead so much. But at the end of the day, he is injured often, and he does get banged up at times, and he does miss games. That definitely has to dock him. And the Patriots are loaded at running back, and they just drafted Damian Harris in the 3rd round. They drafted Sony a few years ago in the 1st round. So how much are you going to pay running backs? How much are you going to keep a guy like Rex Burkhead around? He's got the chance to stay because he took this pay cut, but this was basically a take a pay cut, take it or leave it type of pay cut. And obviously he decided to take it.
Question here, who will be a surprise trade or cut in the secondary? There are simply too many assets.
That's a good question. And I'm not going to give my hot take of the day. Okay, I'll give my hot take of the day, but where I'm going with this, I'm sure. It's J.C. Jackson. And for the life of me, just looking at Bill Belichick's history, Asante Samuel, Malcolm Butler, Logan Ryan, the only cornerback he's paid is Stephon Gilmore, right? And I guess Revis for 1 year. When you look at sort of the tea leaves and the writing on the wall, J.C. Jackson is the perfect guy to trade at the peak of his powers when his value is at the highest and recoup a really good asset in that bat. You look at him, a team that's looking for a corner, they might trade you a 1st or a 2nd round pick for J.C. Jackson. They might trade you a player that's a starting caliber player that you can plug and play at a spot of need where they are so deep there. So it's just I like J.C. Jackson as a player. There's not a knock on him. I think the issue that I have is that are the Patriots really going to give J.C. Jackson a ton of guaranteed money and give him a contract that he's going to want to sign a long-term extension here? I just have pauses with that based off of their past history with players like J.C. and guys that come from similar backgrounds as J.C. as well. So I'm just not sure if that's the direction that they're necessarily going to go in with him. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try to maximize his value, especially if they believe in Juwan Williams playing on the outside also.
We have a couple trade proposals being thrown around in the chat. Most likely what they're getting at is, do you think that the Patriots are done adding players at skill positions like wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr. being thrown out here in the comments? But do you think the Patriots are content with what they have in that room, or do you think they're going to make another splash because they did free up some cap space?
Well, the Patriots are always in for a good bargain. So if they can get somebody on a good bargain or a deal that they feel like they're winning that deal, then they'll do it. I don't think that any position is off the table. We saw that with Cam Newton. We thought all offseason that the quarterback position was all set and they were rolling with Stidham, and then they end up signing Cam because it's such a great deal. That's at the end of the day. If they can get David Njoku for a 5th or a 6th round pick, then okay, that's a totally different story. But if the Browns are asking for a 3rd round pick, I don't see that happening. In terms of, maybe adding Odell, I know Cam has a great relationship with Odell. They are kind of brothers. They throw to each other all the time. Cam knows Odell very well, knows his routes, knows the way that he plays the game extremely well. So if there's anybody that could maybe convince and get in Odell's ear to convince him to come to New England, as you can tell, Sierra, I would love to see Odell in New England, and that's why I'm going down this road. They go for one with Tom Brady, who had a little bit of a thing going on with Odell. I think Odell more looked up to Tom Brady as an idol than anything else, whereas with Cam and Odell, I think it's more about being equals and about being peers. So I think that those two guys have a great relationship, and I'm ruling it out because I don't think Cleveland has any interest in trading him, but I'm not ruling it out because of Cam.
And I think David Njoku, I think I'm saying that right, is a name that's being thrown around here in the live chat as a potential trade target.
Yeah, so Njoku from the Browns, you almost got it. It's a hard J.
Njoku, we're close.
Yeah. Hard J. Njoku, really talented player. First round pick a few years ago, super athletic, can jump out of the gym, killed the combine, all that kind of stuff. A really good red zone weapon. He had a really good second year. First year was a little bit rocky. Second year put up stats. Then he got hurt in his third season, and that was, kind of went down the rails from there, and he fell out of favor in Cleveland, and now he's requesting a trade. Again, it comes back to value. It comes back to what they're giving up to get him back. I would love to see them go with a tight end depth chart of Njoku, Asiasi, and Keene over Lacoste, Asiasi, and Keene, right? We'd love to see Njoku and Lacoste out. We'd all like to see that, but it really takes two to tango. And if Cleveland's asking for anything of value after the Patriots just gave up a haul to get Asiasi and Keene on the roster in April, if they're asking for anything of value, I don't think it's going to happen here.
Last question before we wrap things up for today. Our quintessential Damian Harris question: is he set up for a breakout year this season after pretty much not playing at all in his rookie?
You mean Barry Sanders, right? Right, Sierra? That's who we're talking about, right? No, I'm just teasing. I think with Damian Harris, the thing that's funny to me is that everybody thinks that he's this like hidden gem that they have, this guy, this smoking gun that they're holding back, right? That he's in their back pocket and they're going to bring him out and he's just going to, set the world on fire. If he was that good, he would have been playing, folks. He would have been playing last year. He would have been on the field as a rookie. He couldn't crack the top three. He couldn't get over those veteran guys. And it was probably for good reason that Ivan Fears or Bill Belichick or Josh McDaniels or whoever was making that decision, or whoever decided to, go that direction, was obviously clearly like the veteran players more than the young guy. I think Harris will get his opportunities though this summer. And although it's a shortened, abbreviated sort of training camp and preseason, this is when he can really shine, is really kind of hit the ground running in camp and show them that I've made improvements. I'm ready. I'm healthy. Let's do it. I think that maybe they can be able to get him in there at some point. And then the first month of the season, I think, is really going to be glorified preseason, because there is not going to be any preseason games. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a little bit more in the mix in the first month as well. But eventually I think it's going to give out to the veterans, unless Rex Burkhead comes in super out of shape and they end up just releasing him or something like that.
Well, that will do it for another Patriots Q&A. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Patriots Press Pass so you don't miss when we go live every Tuesday and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week.